around, we're going to be getting conflicting messages on where the political power relies, whether it's in the finance industry, whether it's in the political structures, the county committees, et cetera, et cetera. And I just wanted to say that political power relies on those who are more effectively organized to articulate what their needs are and their concerns are, and deliver the power behind that concern in order to move the electeds and the decision makers to deal with those issues. So the political power relies in us. It lies within us as a community, whether it's Latinos, African Americans, progressives, to the extent that we can organize. And of course, to that extent, you know, we do have to add that we need to build the kind of structures, permanent political structures in our communities that can sustain that conversation beyond the campaigns for candidates. Because we see that a lot of our concerns are canalized into these candidate-driven campaigns, and the day after election day, those 200, 300 people that were volunteering and driving that campaign go back to their homes, and those voices are no longer heard. So we have to start thinking about mechanisms and structures that will continue to articulate our concerns and our issues beyond election day.
Okay, anyone else?
I don't know exactly where the power lies. It depends on the issue, it depends on where it happens, but I do know one thing. It really doesn't lie with the community where it should lie, and that's the problem. The city of New York has special interests for so if you're housing, the power lies in certain developers and certain companies and certain financiers. If you're a community-based organization, the bigger groups are the more powerful ones. If you're an art group, then the big museums are a powerful one. There's really not, the power doesn't lie. It's a big city, so there's a lot of people who have power. You have the unions who can play a big, powerful role depending on the issue, depending on the race. So I don't know necessarily where the power lies in one particular place, but I do know it's not in the hands of where it should be, which is the people, and that's a problem. And by the way, that's one of the reasons why Jaime came up with the idea of creating this institute, so we get more people out there who can organize, who can help, who can contribute, who can help share the wealth and share the power. So that's important.
The oppressed never have power. And in many ways, we're an oppressed society because we have too much on our plate with our family, our friends, our community, going to work, not having work, having sick parents, bringing our children, daycare, no care. All these things are oppressors' techniques in keeping us powerless. So if we continue to live a day-to-day existence and not coalesce around an entity, a group, an idea, a struggle, we will never have power. And every time the changes of the face changes to what we believe power is, we'll continue to run in a circle and never accomplish anything. And back to your point, we have to continue the conversation. Once we get a success, just don't go home and have dinner and forget about it. We have to use that success to continue to build a group that can work together and be successful. Instead of breaking apart and then trying to get all the pieces together on another idea, another issue, another activity, another event. We have to get out of the oppressed mindset.
What I don't understand about political power and defining it within parties, or even President Obama, the biggest disappointment in my lifetime, I thought he was going to redefine the presidency. Bill de Blasio, progressive, that's how we define power, somebody being in power that's not Michael Bloomberg? I don't believe so. I think that we have a tendency to conform power and concede power and believe that as oppressed people we can't do anything. There wasn't a more oppressed minority than in South Africa, and I think that we forget rapidly because in our comfort zone, both professionally and politically, we want to belong. So that I think that there's too many people hell-bent in belonging and being accepted by the power structures and making sure they get good gigs and keep their good gigs. Simple as that. It's my money, sucker! What are you talking about? And when the mayor says we're getting so much to be able to resolve the problem and it's coming from the federal money, it's your money. The state money. So here we get involved in this sophisticated conversation and they're pulling our chain. It's all bullshit. It's our money.
The insiders and the real wise people were saying he's not going to win, he's got no money. He's got none of this, he's got none of that. But those of us that believed in another direction for the city and that we believed in the values that he was articulating stuck with that, and we were not disheartened. And lo and behold, here we are with a total different change in progressive. And I know a totally different change in direction. I know that it's not the full, the full package that a lot of people want, so as to call it a progressive new government. We've yet to see how this thing is going to develop. But I think that we needed to change the direction. I think that power lies in those of us that are not willing to give up and are willing to continue to organize around these issues.
I don't think we can collectively decide who we want to support. We always fall apart, we always straggle away. We never coalesce around one group. At least in other ethnic populations, they could say, the Jewish vote will do this, the Italian vote will do that. Nobody can figure out what the Latinos are going to support. We can't even figure it out. Until we can deliver a block of votes for any one issue or any one person, we will really never have power, because we can't even agree with ourselves.
That's right.
Black did Bill de Blasio
So in the Democratic primary, you had a lesbian woman, you had an Asian American man, you had a black man, you had Bill de Blasio. Bill de Blasio came out with the most votes by far. It had nothing to do with his gender or his identity. It had something to do with his message, and people really identified with him. And I don't think that nowadays, and maybe for the last 5 or 10 years, people are not racially identifying in politics or nationality.
You know why we don't have a Puerto Rican mayor, a Latino mayor? Because we haven't had that person stand up to the stage. It has nothing to do with the damn funding or having the money or the contributions that we know we will never be able to get because our community is not composed that way. It's having the right candidate, as the brother here suggests, because if you come with the right message, we can't even organize ourselves among the elected officials out of a mess. We can't even get the elected officials because I have tried in my activist hat, not the journalist role, to get them to meet among themselves. So when you're talking about it, so we can't sell, and you ran for office. You were an elected official. So the thing of money, you know when the money comes? After you win the primary. You do it with little money, you do it with a message. Where was Bill de Blasio? What, white Germans or Italians? Was that it? No. So this is all BS in terms of having that you need a base, that you need that money. You need to have the right message and have your basic core of people with you and go out there and have the message. You know what Herman Badillo was in 1973? He was too Jewish. We couldn't accept the fact that he was married to a Jew. That's real. He was a smart Puerto Rican. The mediocre people that came after him, elected officials in power right now, couldn't accept the fact that he was smarter than all of them. And if you look at his record, we haven't had a candidate like that run citywide. That's why we don't have a mayor.
The history that I have seen is that Latino power has come out of us organizing, even against the power of money and the power against the political establishment. I know of, in our history, we have people that have run for the assembly and other campaigns while on unemployment because they responded to the interests of our people. If we were to think that money controls us, there's really no need to campaigns. If we were to think that just the people that now have the power are the ones that at the end are going to win, there's no reasons to generate the money that we need in order to develop and to deliver effective messages and the kind of professional campaigns that we need. So I don't want people living here thinking that, none of that is valuable. All we need to do is get someone that's better than everybody else. That, my friend, is not valid. What we have to do is do the hard work, the historically hard work that it takes to understand how this thing works and put it together. And yes, that includes putting up the money. I've been involved in a number of campaigns. I see who's donating, but I also see who's donating the time, the volunteer effort, the vision, the sacrifices. I've seen, old people making their sacrifices in their buildings on the streets, getting the petitions and everything else. So I am not interested.
You do get paid as a campaign manager, right?
You do get paid as a campaign manager, right? I hope so.
Okay, so he has an interest. He has a vested interest in making money.
Okay, as opposed to someone that's saying, don't worry about it, we'll just get good press.
Okay, Marvin.
We'll get good press.
So it's a business for you, though. It's a business, right?
No, sir, actually it's not.
We have a new mayor. The question is, does he have a mandate when you have such a low turnout?
We didn't just elect de Blasio for mayor with low turnout. We also elected a public advocate who was an ally of him, running on the same line with the same message. We elected a borough president in Manhattan, Gail Brewer, who was part of a liberal progressive caucus within the city council. We also elected Scott Stringer as controller, so to me, there's a team of people who have shared interests, political interests, ideological interests, and points of view. And I know that we're not pushing any one candidate, but Letitia James ran along with Melissa Mark-Viverito as part of a group. And so if Melissa were to be elected to the speaker, we would have a citywide, not elected by us, but elected by the city council, who is also part of that same group of people with a progressive agenda.
But the mandate is by those who actually go to the polls, and it's simple. The question, I think, is a short answer. He has a mandate. Did anybody was prevented from going to the polls? So people that showed up, that's the mandate. He got the bulk of the people that went to show, and I think that Luis makes an excellent point. Regardless of whether it's through the Working Families Party, who saw a big hole in the Democratic Party and went through it, they're in power, and now people are worried, oh, the Working Families Party, so what? If they do the right thing, so what? I think Bill de Blasio has a mandate, and all the other people that got elected on the same platform, you're absolutely correct. So if it's 200,000, 50,000, they showed up and vote, it's our mayor.
The fact is, he's gonna be the mayor. He's gonna call the shots. And he's gonna divide the pie the way he thinks it should be. It's gonna go along his ideology. It's gonna go along whatever commitments he's made before, whatever commitment he has to make now. That's how it's gonna work. Mandate is not relevant once you win. Mandate is what the pundits on TV and the press people need to use because they need something to talk about. The mayor is the mayor.
Watch it,
And
watch it, watch it.
That's it. So he's going to do whatever he has to do because he was elected. And it doesn't matter if only a small percentage of the population came out and voted. They voted. They exercised their civic duty. They did it. They elected a mayor, whether we like it or not. And he and I, we supported other candidates. But
No, we won't. Well, I was for Bill in 1951.
So it is what it is. So we have to deal with it. It doesn't matter whether he has a mandate or not, because he's the mayor. Like it or not, he's the guy.
Those of us that are involved and have given up our lives or giving a large part of our lives to helping with campaigns, we understand that money is probably the most critical factor because it can actually buy the products and the techniques, the technologies, the professionals that you need in order to win. But that is not the only factor, and that is not the overriding factor. Our history shows that, most of our history shows that we, in most instances, have won campaigns where we are the ones that are underfunded. That you had a Nydia Velázquez who had half the money that the incumbent Solarz had half the money probably, and all the prognosticators were saying, oh, she's gonna lose because we got the most money. And you know what?
Yeah, but did we count the union money that she had?
I'm sorry, it was Mike?
That's Mike.
Okay, wait.
We count the union money that she had?
Oh, there you go.
You can say that she didn't have,
exactly.
she didn't raise enough
Again,
money.
my point.
She had a whole other interest group behind her.
Yeah,
Dennis
right.
Rivera in particular, 1199.
Exactly.
That compensated for that. And
Yes,
that's
exactly.
money. Because
that's not money.
1199 pays
Money.
the people, 1199 puts out money out there, that's money.
Yes, I know, but those are also
Whatever you want,
volunteers.
but that's
Those
money.
are also volunteers. Those are also volunteers. Those are also people that share your vision. I'm going to give you a case in point. You know, yes, Bill de Blasio was 10% behind, you know, but he made a very clear contrasting point on the issue of stop and frisk. We were seeing a massive criminalization of our youth, and most of us felt it very personally that our kids were being criminalized for no reason whatsoever.
My grandfather used to say the only thing that he was afraid were bees, abejas, bees. And I said, why? He said, because they are organized. All these debates that we're having in terms of the speakership of the city council, this is completely new to me. I have never heard of candidates for the speakership debating in the Bronx, debating in Queens, debating in Brooklyn, when in reality what they need is an internal vote. I'm not going one way or another, but that's the reality, and this, to me, is new. So, what is happening regarding the speakership, and where are we going with this?
Let me start out with this one. I'll tell you. Six candidates. I've spoken to 3 of the candidates. I asked them the same question. Why are you doing these damn debates? 3 out of the 6 honestly told me, off the record, the media is asking. So what we do in the media is really irresponsible. So, and I'm saying as a media person because I couldn't understand it, including one of the medias that I'm involved with who actually held a debate. I said, why are we doing this shit? It's among them. They understood it, but you know what? I said, why did you? He said, we didn't have a chance to talk amongst each other. But not any, at least 3 of the 6 that are running actually told me that they didn't want to do the debate, that it was giving the people a false sense of participation. So at least 3 of them are being honest about it, but they went ahead because the media fed the frenzy. So that's, I say mea culpa for that.
In terms of the debates, that's not the only, I was just putting that in context. I just want to know where we're going with this speakership race that we are experiencing.
It's an internal matter. How do you, nobody knows.
Yeah, it's inside baseball, as we say. And let me just point out the last 2 speakers, hold on, the last 2 speakers that were, the last 2 speakers that were appointed or selected, elected by their peers. I mean, I don't think elected should be used to selected.
Selected.
Were a man that was responsible for 2 of those is sitting right here. So if there is I'm just, not because he's here, but if there is someone who can really talk about this, it's Mike. But as Gerson said, it's inside baseball. I think the Progressive Caucus has thrown a little monkey wrench. I don't know how much at the end of the day, how much of a curveball it'll be. But it'll be interesting to see whether some will be willing and be courageous enough to buck their own county leaders. Because at the end of the day, you know, people, when they're there and they get a little taste of power, they get a little committee chairmanship thrown at them, and you know, whatever it is, sometimes, you know, that's enough. But so it'll be interesting to see whether some will go against the county leaders' wishes, especially those from the Bronx and Queens. Today there's a report that de Blasio is calling, and his people are calling around other council members and council member elects to say that Melissa Mark-Viverito is his choice. I have a problem with that. And I think that council members and the incoming council members, they should have a problem with that too. Anytime that someone in the executive meddles with what's going on in the legislative branch, which is supposed to be the check and balance, there's a problem with that. Let the council deal with it. Don't twist arms. I think the mayor should do what he has to do and let the council deliberate and choose who they want to be. That's a problem. We don't see that at the federal level very much. We don't see it at the state level.
This is about getting 26 votes. End of discussion. This has nothing to do with anybody else. We go in and we negotiate. It's horse trading. What county wants what? What member wants what? What is going to get you the speaker to vote? That's the way whether we like it or not, that's the process we have. And all this outside intervention means nothing. Let me say that again. Nothing. Having done the last 2 speaker races, it means nothing. 1199 candidate against Gifford Miller, Bill Perkins, didn't go anywhere. 1199 candidate against Christine Quinn, Bill de Blasio, didn't go anywhere. This is inside baseball. This is members only. When the vote is taken, not even senior staff members are in the room. This is done 2 or 3 days before, because you need a staff on the floor to conduct the meeting. So this decision is going to be made that weekend before the 8th, when the vote is going to be taken. That's how it's done. Anything else is a figment of people's imagination. All these progressives, when one of them says, I got the opportunity to get health and I want health, and he wants health, I'm going to give my vote to the one I think is going to be speaker before he does, because if he gets into the room first, he's going to get health. That's the way it works. So if anybody wants to go out and have all these little fanfare in each one of the boroughs, that's great. And at the end of the day, they're all going to negotiate what's good for them and what's good for their districts. So let me say that again, what's good for their district. Because a lot of members, when they're negotiating, they really do take into account what's good for my district. So if I live uptown and I have 2 hospitals in my district, then maybe health is important for me. If I'm in the Navy Yard and there's economic development going on, maybe economic development is going on. So it's not just politics. They do take into account their districts and their ideology to get onto the committee. But the only way you get onto the committee, because it's appointed by the speaker, is by cutting that deal. Whether we like it or not, whether cutting the deal is a nasty, dirty term, that's life. That's what's going to happen. And Bill de Blasio has to be careful, because you can get a speaker, just like Christine Quinn, who was in bed with her. That was the biggest mistake we did. In hindsight, maybe we should have gone with Bill de Blasio, but we went with Christine Quinn. And the first thing and we did that because we believed she was a person that came from a community of struggle. And that community of struggle had the same needs as our community of people, brown and black. But she went and came across and went over to the other side. And let me tell you something. There are guys who will be standing in the middle of the rotunda, waiting to decide how to make their vote, looking to the other end of the city hall to see what the mayor is dangling for them, for their vote. And that's the problem with getting the executive involved in this decision, because the mayor has a bigger cookie jar, so he can give out more stuff. So what's going to happen? I've cut deals with members where they walk out and say, look, Speaker Miller just gave me this. What are you going to give me? That's what they're going to do. This is horse trading, plain and simple. You may not like it, but that's the way it is. After all is said and done, I think it would be Garodnik. I think he would be the safer bet for the county leaders. It has nothing to do with race. I also believe that part of the problem is that he started out earlier than she did, and that's a real thing. You know, members get contributions, members are courted by potential speakers ahead of time, and Melissa didn't start that part of the process till afterwards. So I think that's going to hurt her. I also believe that because of the experience of Christine Quinn, his client, by the way, and Mayor Bloomberg, that members who did not, sitting members, not new ones, because they don't know, but the more experienced members are going to shy away from that marriage of a mayor who is very supportive of a speaker and a speaker who's very supportive of a mayor. They're going to want to look for someone who is going to have Gifford Miller as speaker vetoed more bills than any other speaker combined in his speakership, because he was at war with Mike Bloomberg. But that energized the council. The members liked that, because they knew that if they had a beef, they can go to their leader, and their leader will fight for them. We're gonna veto it. Screw him. We're gonna go over it. Members want that. If you have a speaker who is gonna do the mayor's bidding, where do you go as a member? You go to your progressive caucus, who doesn't have 26 votes. Let me tell you something. When I first got to the city council, there weren't that many members. When I left the city council, the Black, Latino, and Asian caucus had 26 members.
Okay,
that's the majority. They could have put whomever they wanted, but they didn't. They went along with their county leaders. They went along with getting the right committee. They went along with getting their rule. That's what this is about.
The mechanics of this whole process is fascinating. But the whole historical context where you had county leaders deciding during 2 or 3 terms of Mike Bloomberg to actually support him by, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, by electing a speaker of the council that worked with him, you know, the billionaire mayor, and also was able to somehow not offer too much resistance on term limits and some critical key issues. All of a sudden now are now holding the Bill de Blasio administration to a totally different set of values. Now we are really concerned about being too homogenous and about working too well together and everyone having the same progressive values and agenda. All of a sudden, you know, we have, you know, this whole construct, this whole narrative about, oh, this doesn't feel well now. Well, it feels much better when they did it for Bloomberg, because certainly he was able to grease those little wheels a little bit better than Bill can right now. I mean, and I'm not knocking anyone on that, but I'm simply saying that there is some history here.
Who do you think is going to win?
I hope it's Melissa, because it answers a lot of questions. I want to ask one question to this crowd, and really, do you really feel that you're reflected in this whole administration and this whole new kind of governance culture? I mean, we have to ask ourselves the question that Haiti asked us a while back. We've all been having these private conversations, haven't we? And we're saying, hey, where are the Latino leaders in this, okay? And where are the Latino appointments going to be at? And what issues that drive our communities are going to be reflected in that new progressive institutional agenda?
I'm not a consultant and all that. Just telling you what I've written, I said that Melissa is the best candidate. I wrote a column, I said it on New York One, I've made several comments, and this is a person that I've criticized continuously, on occasions, very strongly. I do believe she's the strongest candidate, she's the best candidate. And those that think, I've covered her, okay? Those that know Melissa Mark-Viverito, do you think that she's gonna carry anybody's water? Are you crazy? Bill de Blasio, she'll tell him, go, you know, yourself. She will. So what I think, in regards to your question...
If you check her voting record...
Mike, I didn't interrupt.
Check your voting record, you'll see.
Mike, if what she will do as speaker with power, as equal, she would be the second most powerful person. Not what she did before. What she does with the power she gains as speaker, I think she will really give this mayor a hard time. I don't think she's just going to carry anybody's water. So those that want to live in the past and hold grudges from the past, I can't. I know where her flaws are. She's not a perfect person, but I'll be damned if the Puerto Rican woman who is qualified, I'm going to somehow say, because it's an internal process that has been made public, that we're not going to be supportive of her. Ahí es que nosotros estamos bien jodidos. 2008. This is not for me. 2008, after Barack Obama was elected and made history, and we were all together, I got together with Juan Cartagena. He was at CSS. And I held a total of 6 off-the-record meetings, a journalist having off-the-record meetings. There were like 100, 125 people participated in all 6 with different conversations. One of them had to do with Jaime Estades dusting off what he had founded 10 years prior. He had actually registered this concept 10 years prior, at the time that you were working with 1199, I think it was, right?
Hispanic Educational Legal Fund.
A mí mierda.
Save money. It used to be save money.
And what he brought, he says, I asked him he had told me about the concept, so he came forth in these citywide gatherings and he spoke about it. I'm proud of the fact that, again, oppressed and taking power without money, and I'm going to say this, and this is no reflection on anybody here, because I've already said my piece about money. Without money, and he's still doing without money, with except very little resources that were acknowledged by CUNY, which we appreciate our friend Jay Hershenson and other people here at Hunter. But with no money, he's been able to put this together. So I think that if you have an idea and it's gathering dust, like he was, it remained dormant for 10 years. It was. And it wound up that, you know, I get a mimic on Wednesdays and he's wearing a red beret. You better put it on your red beret. But the fact is that it's encouraging to see that there is interest, but not only on the student part. These experts, I'm not an expert. These are the people that know it all. They've actually done this work in public policy and all that. to bring together these different forces. So you really, going back to the concept of money, you've got to move. You've got to say, I'm going to go out there and do it. You've got to be able to then, to address your question, young man, is the fact that it's already happening. It's just that it's hard to define. You want a definition. I don't think anybody can define that. It's just by doing. So I congratulate Jaime. I congratulate every one of these panelists that actually has taken the time to speak to these people that care from across the city. And I think this is the way to go.